Christchurch. I'm the AV chapter organiser of Christchurch. I've also got 2 co-organisers, and I'm also the regional organiser for AV, which is just a new role that I've taken on, and that covers all of the chapters in New Zealand. Just because AV is growing so much and so quickly, they kind of need to start these areas that are actually growing, like New Zealand is growing in chapters, and currently we have 10 chapters in New Zealand, and by the sounds of things it's about to grow to 12, and hopefully just grow and grow every year. So we haven't got that many centres in New Zealand, so I'm sure we'll get to a limit. But yeah, so it's really exciting times for AV and for activism and for animals in New Zealand. So my role is just to support the organisers of each of those chapters, and we'll just sort of work together and chat and see how we can make things better for our chapters and for our volunteers. So and that means, you know, putting together things like workshops and stuff just to help you guys with all aspects of the cube and with your activism, with your outreach, yeah, and just general approach to animal rights on a day-to-day sort of a level, I suppose. And we all have different areas that we're concentrating on. You know, some are in the educational area, some are stickering and doing 5 a.m. Poster drops and all that sort of stuff, and you know, and others are in the cube, and it's just so inspiring just watching how each of us are growing as activists in this country, and how we're pushing back at industry, and industry are freaking out, and we see that in small areas. Just even I'm involved with the Save movement that's recently started up in Christchurch, you know, showing up to a slaughterhouse and finding that they've put green netting all around what was once very open and exposed to the public. As soon as they got wind that we were going to be there, they covered it all up. You know, that's a direct response to the pressure that we're putting on industries and their need to try and protect what they don't want the rest of the world to see. So yeah, not great getting the message out. It makes it a little bit more challenging, but still we can see that the pressure is there, and we just have to keep on until we shut that stuff down. Mm-hmm. So just also a little bit of background about me. I've been vegan for almost 5 years now. My whole family, so I've got 4 grown children and my husband, our dogs, we all turned vegan at the same time, pretty much within a few months of each other. So that was really exciting. So it's just so cool to be able to live in a vegan household, surrounded by people. All their partners now are vegan. My mum's vegan. It's just this ripple effect. And the more we let them know that this is no longer something that we're just going to sit back and accept, the bigger that message becomes, and it grows, and people will start to click on and absorb it, and it's really cool, and adopt it. So I've also been involved before that in rescue, wildlife rescue and animal rescue, and that also involved taking animals out of so it was open rescue, animals out of factory farming conditions. So I've been involved in a lot of that kind of work, and yeah, and I've been an activist, an actual animal rights activist for 4 years now. I'm just going to cover a few basic things so that whether we're going to have a cube today or not, I don't know. It's going to be weather dependent, so we'll try and race it through and get it condensed into 2 hours. So I am going to skip over some things. I think the main thing that we want to concentrate on is just outreach conversations, and just little ways, you know, some ideas that you may not have adopted, or just a few things that you may already be using in your outreach if you're on outreach. So what I'm probably going to say is stuff that you already know, stuff that, you know, no doubt you've been YouTubing like crazy, you know, doing the Joeys and the James things, you know, and that's cool, because I mean those guys are up here, you know, and I think we value their outreach, and we aspire to be like that. But I think what's also important to note is that many of us will never reach those heights, but we can get almost there, and remember that many of those videos, all of those videos are quite heavily edited. And you see these amazing outcomes, but that's not the case for every single conversation that those guys are having. So they're not really realistic views of what your outreach should be. We're not necessarily trying to turn people vegan in our lifetimes. We're trying to get people to take veganism seriously and trying to get them to take animal rights seriously and the plight that every animal faces in the food industries, particularly every single day. So. That's what our aim should be, and so this is where our outreach and our conversations come into play, that we're just trying to educate, we're just trying to impart knowledge and get people on side and understand that veganism is serious, animal rights is serious, and that's all we can really hope for. Because we don't know if people are actually going to go away and turn vegan. Even it doesn't matter how many numbers you write down to say you've got a conversion tally at the end of it, you just don't know where people are going to go with that. So, what we're going to cover in brief, which many of you already know, what AV is and the Cube of Truth. So we'll just do a little reminders on that one. So the abolitionist stance, we may just briefly drop in on that. Is everyone clear on the abolitionist stance here? I would guess that if you are outreaching with AV that you are clear on that. We'll just cover it a little bit anyway. Outreaching and your conversations, so we'll concentrate mainly on that. The tough customers and tricky conversations that I'm sure we've all faced to some degree. Activism and the law in New Zealand is very basic. And then animals in the agricultural industries. So AV and the Cube of Truth. So AV employs direct action using highly effective public outreach. We show local and international standard practice footage. This shows pretty much what occurs in the food industries globally. There might be parts of the world where the standards are super low, there are no welfare involved. We already know what countries pretty much don't employ welfare standards. But generally speaking, what we're showing in our cubes, both international and local, is standard practice worldwide. Yeah, and I think it's important for our cubes to balance out. I know that we all think it's important that we're showing New Zealand industry standard, but at this point in time we don't have footage from inside slaughterhouses. We have a few grainy videos that are available to us, but we have nothing clear. So really the information that we're showing, the footage that we're showing from New Zealand is more from within factory farming, which is how most people are actually obtaining their food, from factory farms. But there are also many bystanders that can be quite difficult to get the message across that we're not just here to discuss welfare. So that's sort of where my concerns are if we just go all hard out on New Zealand footage at this point in time, where it's just showing factory farming. We can kind of struggle with our conversations. If you're skilled in your conversation with someone and turning them from going from a welfare view to seeing the bigger picture, that's awesome. But it can be a struggle for some people. So, and many people don't actually want to stick around and hear that part of it. They already think they've done a good job. They already think that their choices to consume welfare, high welfare practice animal, free-range farmed animals is enough, and so something that we can hone as well at those skills. So we fully equip the public with everything needed to embrace a vegan lifestyle, and we hold an abolitionist stance on animal exploitation. So regarding the cube, what I think is important to note with the cube, and many of us, once we kind of feel like our outreach skills are pretty sussed and we're doing really well, and every week it's just our outreach seems to just get better and better, you're really buzzing from your conversations and you're looking forward to the next time you can go out onto outreach. It's also really important to remember that your role in AV should, apart from the organisers, cover outreach and being inside the cube. Some people get very focused on just being on outreach and don't want to get inside the cube. And even though we value your time as an outreacher, it's still important if numbers are struggling or people need to be given breaks in the cube, that you're prepared to step into the cube and do your 15-20 minutes until you can be brought out again. It's just a really important way for things to just flow nicely with the cube. Just thought I'd throw that in there because I know some people really just want to be on outreach. I've got some people in my chapter in Christchurch that I really struggle to encourage them into the cube, and it's something that as organisers we don't want to be dealing with the drama of that and the uncomfortable kind of feelings that come with that. So if everyone can be on board with that, that's fantastic. So masks must always be worn in the cube. There should be no talking in the cube amongst activists, no talking to bystanders. You would raise your hands for the 3 reasons. Everyone's aware of that. Why you would raise your hands. I probably don't need to cover Mum. I will cover that, okay. Sorry. So you would raise your hand for 3 reasons. I like to say 4 reasons actually, but the first reason would be if you've got a child watching the footage and they're not, their parents or who their adult that they're with is not aware of it. So sometimes Mum and Dad are in a shop and the kid just runs out and just comes and starts watching the footage. So that's a time that you would put your hand up and you would get an outreacher to come over and they would address the child. So for those of you on outreach, that doesn't mean saying to the child, you need to run away now and find Mummy and Daddy, please. It's a time to go, hey look, this is really scary stuff on there, not very nice to watch, but I'm quite keen to come and talk to you over here and we can talk about animals and talk about how you feel about animals. You know, there's an opportunity to outreach a child and get a message to them that they can take home and start questioning things at home and maybe start some really great conversations at home with Mum and Dad and other family members. So again, the age of the child, use your as an outreacher, just sort of, you know, for me, I kind of figure out, get an idea from my first few moments of talking to the child where they're at. Some of them are asking the most amazing questions, more so than what adults are asking. You know, they're direct, they're straight to the point, they want to know what's going on, and they want to find solutions. So get a gauge from those first few moments of a conversation with a child. But I usually go around 10 years old. If I think they're over 10 years old, I think that they can handle this, and you might be able to spend a little bit more time talking about the footage rather than taking them away from it. If they look like they're sort of mid-teens, they're cool to watch it. Just let them be. But anything sort of under 10 years old, it's probably a good time to be a little more sensitive around the conversation. Of course, if they say, yeah, Mum knows I'm here, she's just over there, which she might be. I've had that many times. Mum's just standing back and letting the child watch it. She might not know what's going on in the screen, but she's fully aware that her child is watching something. Just keep on with the conversation. You know, we just don't want drama with parents. We know the kids can handle it. We know we can have those conversations, but we don't want parents coming and having a nut at us because we've allowed them to watch something that they don't feel comfortable with. Another reason why you'd raise your hand is if you've got an adult or a bystander watching your footage and they haven't been addressed by an outreacher. So let them engage for a few moments. If you can see that they're really engaging in the footage on the screen, put your hand up and then someone will come over. Outreaches, that's not a time to try and avoid going up to the person in the cube and asking them what's the problem, what is it that you need. Take in what's going on around you. You know, the whole no talking thing, that kind of extends to you as outreaches as well. Avoid having conversations or any kind of verbal communication with those in the cube if you can help it. If they've got their hand up and there's nothing obvious around you, what's going on, then that's the time to maybe just say, what's up? And they might want to step out, which is the third reason why you put your hand up, is that they want to, the person in the cube needs to come out of the cube. Maybe you need a break. Feet are tired, we understand, legs get tired, get achy, backs get sore, you want to go to the toilet, something like that, you're feeling uncomfortable, you're a bit upset, that happens as well. People can be affected in the cube by watching others and the way they're affected by what they're watching, by conversations that are going on. It could be quite raised kind of emotions going on, and that may affect you as someone in the cube. We're not judging you on that. You know, if it's a problem for you, then just ask to come out of the cube and wait until we find someone that will fill your place. Don't just say, I want to come out and step out. Just and let us know. what the reason is. I've got to get out of this cube right now. Then we'll say, okay, just give me a second, I'll find someone to fill in for you. And that's something as outreachers, do ensure that you are taking that seriously and that you are finding someone to fill that space. A fourth reason why you would put your hand up is if someone is talking to you and insisting on talking to you, then put your hand up. Sometimes a bystander will come past. The reasons why you have your mask on means nothing to them. They will just keep on trying to talk to you, and whether it comes from an aggressive place or from a place where they just want to know more what's going on, put your hand up. Don't talk, just let an outreacher know. Regarding the masks, some people have concerns over the V for Vendetta mask because obviously they come from the anonymous movement. What the masks, in short, is that they just kind of make those in the cube inanimate. They draw interest, so someone will see the masks from afar and be drawn into what's going on. It's basically just kind of showing a cube where you're just presenting information. You're not there, your mouth isn't showing, you're not there to have a conversation. Okay, so black clothing. We've all got our blacks on today, that's awesome. Black clothing is part of the uniform. That's like showing up for work. If you're expected to wear a uniform at work, you don't question why you have to wear that uniform. You just put the uniform and you show up and you just do your job. The same goes for Anonymous, for the voiceless. We ask you to wear black clothing, if not on the bottom, then certainly on the top. So it can be anything. We don't encourage you to wear clothes that have writing on them that belong to a business or something like that. We're trying to get you to just wear either a plain top, a vegan top, or the AV top, and just black pants or skirt or whatever. But keep it dark. If you have to wear something other than black on the bottom, on your bottom, then just have it of a dark nature if possible. I know there are a lot of people that are not into wearing black, you know, they feel like it sucks out energy and all that sort of stuff. We get that, but it's just for a couple of hours, once a week. Just do it and feel good about it. It's cohesive. It just sits with what everyone else is doing. It's a worldwide. We have almost 600 chapters worldwide now, and we have a cohesive look for our organisations. The footage and files are examples of standard practice local and international industries, as I explained. And the outreach material that we use should be kept to a minimum. This is organisers, but for everybody as well. If you do come across some pamphlets that you want to add to the table, that's certainly something that you need to discuss with your organisers. So it should be kept to a minimum, maximum of 3 at any one time on your table. You can rotate these if you've got, you know, several piles of vegan friendly information and whatever nature that is, then just keep it to the 3. And one of those should always be the closing card. Okay, so regarding the closing cards, you've always been Challenge 22, which is the website, but please remember in your conversations, handing over the card and really making mention of the Vegan 22, really sell this idea. 3 weeks of your life, 22 days, it's like, it's a nothing, and imagine how good you could feel after 22 days. And yeah, let's really try and encourage people. So the Vegan 22 is like the domain or something that I think AV purchased that links to Challenge 22, and what that does is it comes back to AV and tells them how many people are visiting Challenge 22 and signing up under the AV thing.
Vegan
Does that
22,
make sense?
yeah.
Yeah, so it means that they've been outreached or they've come across this, they've had a conversation with you in a cube, or someone in a cube somewhere in the world, and they then use that Vegan 22 to go in and sign up for the challenge. So that then comes back to AV.
Sorry, can I just
No,
add,
go on.
I actually joined a Vegan 22 challenge about a week ago.
Oh, cool.
Just because I felt like when I was outreaching and I was making reference to it,
Yeah.
I actually wasn't
That's a great
100% sure
idea.
that I was promoting it in
Sure.
an accurate fashion. You
Yeah.
know what? Yeah.
And you know then what they're
And
telling you.
exactly.
And stuff.
So, and already I feel like some of the conversations I've heard other outreaches have
Yeah.
haven't been a fair representation of the experience someone's actually going to have if they do
Can you give us more information on that now? Are you able to tell us what the process is
so
and what's
so
involved?
I signed up maybe a week ago,
Yeah.
but the challenge wasn't starting straight away, so there was kind of like a lapse.
Yeah, I'm telling you now.
I'm
so,
doing it at the moment
Oh,
too.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like a few days to wait until
Someone
I guess there was
contacted
an appropriate number of people in the group or whatever.
Oh, I see.
So it then only started a couple of days ago.
Okay.
And it actually, you have to sign up via Facebook as well.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, there was
so
some
I went to the
talk of
website
that.
expecting to like sign up via the website and for it to be some sort of interaction with like maybe via email with my personal mentor
Yeah, that's what I
and all the
thought.
rest.
I
But
thought
no,
that.
direct to you. You have to join this group on Facebook,
Okay.
and then what's happened so far? I mean, I'm getting like updates saying someone's posting in the group and people are commenting and
okay.
stuff. And just like yesterday or this morning, was it maybe? I had a message saying I'm your personal mentor, but because that person's not your friend on Facebook, you don't receive. She's sent like some screenshots saying this is how you need to accept my message requests, you know, because they can get hidden in the other folder and stuff. So,
It sounds like a drama.
yeah, so I think it was maybe something that's really important. We should all join part of making a challenge so that we actually
I
understand
did.
what we're
That's a
telling
really
people
good
to go and be
idea.
a part of.
Because you
I haven't
know
got
how
a mentor
lazy
yet.
people
Oh,
are.
yeah,
If
like,
someone
like,
sends me
like,
that,
like,
I've got
lost.
to do this, do
Yeah,
that.
it's
Like,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I signed
Yeah.
up to be a mentor, and it was such a process I gave up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
this is
do
the
all
last
this criteria and like quizzes and stuff, and I was like, man, I'm too busy.
So do you think,
I think there's another one, vegankit.com.
But I'm telling people it's a 2-week. I said, sign up. And, this is something
And you'll be
valuable,
assigned personal
and it's
mentor and
like-
blah blah blah.
But like we do the 6-week challenge with Safe. Unfortunately, they call it the vegetarian challenge, as you know, but it's vegan, and it's so easy. You sign up, and then bam, someone's messaging you, and that's how I thought it would be because we've had the similar experience, haven't we, of signing people up. So yeah, that's a bit annoying.
Yeah, like the last message I had, this was Thursday. Hi everyone, if you've been tagged in this post, I'm your personal mentor. So this is on the group, the
Right.
Challenge 22 group.
okay.
Congratulations, my name is yada yada yada, a little bit about her. And then if you check your message request inbox, you'll see a message from me there. If you need help with that, look at the comments below. There's
Okay,
instructions
so it's
there.
really convoluted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's the way I would promote it, you know, it's the
Exactly,
whole,
yeah.
go in here, you get your own personal mentor, you
Yeah.
get full support, recipes, any questions or challenges, that's my shtick, when I'm talking to them, that's my...
And
that's what
especially
I-
if we're upselling this package that is going to give you all the knowledge you need, it's like, well, if it's going to be so faffy that I know I've given the cards to people that are like, yeah, I'll give it a go, and they only need one thing to put them off, and they'll be like, log off.
The thing is as well, we get a lot of Chinese tourists who don't, Facebook doesn't exist in China, you can't access it.
That's-
Communication barrier.
Yeah.
I'm like pointing at vegan 22.
Yeah, I guess where the vegan 22 comes in without all of that all the carry-on, is that when someone signs in, the intention to make change happens. So I've made a note there. I know I've seen other organisers with their concerns over vegan 22 and how faffy it is.
Pretty hard to get that many mentors, that
yeah.
many people.
So I'm going to actually put this out there as well, because perhaps it's something that I think perhaps AV needs to actually take on, create their own thing. See, in Christchurch, I started up a support group. It's a Facebook support group.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, nothing's happening. I've not been contacted. No one's really putting anything up. And to be honest, it's that whole, you want momentum and you want people to sort of put something in so it kind of gets everyone kind of into posting and putting stuff up. But when you don't have that, it's kind of, and you don't have the time to actually just stay on it. But something like that is great because you're getting direct, it's within your community, the people that understand, that in your same time of the day kind of things. I know as well, people were saying that they've got mentors in Brazil and that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, and the time differences kind of.
Just my 2 cents, when I get the card out, I tell them about the 22, and then I always say, I don't know what, I say the 21 to break a habit, so that's why it's 22.
Yeah.
I was wondering why it was.
And then
Yeah.
I say to them, I don't know why it's a challenge to be compassionate for 22 days. This should come natural. And then I always say back to myself, I did a 90-day when I found veganism to help myself out with health. And if they're talking about any other relation, I bring it back to why they could use it.
Yeah.
So sports training
Cool.
or health, or they actually think about the animals now. And I say, So maybe hopefully they use 22, but maybe even they just go, I'll just do 90 days. You know,
Yeah.
so I kind of
Yeah,
get another
great.
insight, a push to do something.
Yeah, and I suppose
Yeah.
depending on the interactions that you have, we're just jumping way here, but just let's just do it. Let's just do it. It can just get a little bit too formal, and I think it's kind of cool having these sorts of this sort of conversations. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a couple of things we'll just touch on anyway, but I think if you're having those sorts of conversations with people, you're at the point where you've got to know who they are, you've got to know where their interests are, where their concerns and their objections and all that sort of stuff, if it's regarding gaining weight or gaining muscle or something like that. If you know that, then that's when you can go back to that. And as I say, if we can keep it in the back of our minds, it's not about turning people vegan, which would be awesome if we could turn everyone vegan, but with a realistically, we need to just get people to take this message seriously. And that's why they say, take your tally of how many people walked away from you today taking veganism seriously.
Yeah.
And that meant, wow, that's great, thanks for the card, I'm going to go check these out. You know, everything to the affirmative, not, oh yeah, maybe one day I might think about it, or you never know, maybe one day I'll be vegan. That's not a tally, that's not something to add to your tally.
Do you ever read pen? I do that, or whatever relates to them,
Yeah.
get the pen out and do it. So when they get home, they don't just go, oh, all this resources. They go,
Great
oh, that's the
idea,
one we're
Sam.
talking about.
Wow, yeah,
So
that's cool.
It's related to health, or it's related to animals, or related to environment. I'll do that, and then I've got it, and I'll personally know, okay, you know.
That's really great. That's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Because I was beginning my
Noted.
tally, so I was writing on my hand how
Yeah.
people, and then I was like, oh, I've got a pen.
Yeah.
Highlight the bit like
Yeah.
Yeah.
excuses,
Like,
speeches, and
yeah.
Nutritionfacts.org, where is it on the card?
Yeah.
I always go like,
Yeah.
front
That's
end.
cool. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But when you say you want people to take veganism seriously,
Yes.
but what's the outcome that you want from that? From someone taking it serious?
Oh, well, I suppose there could be a number of outcomes. I suppose ideally you want people to no longer view veganism as extreme, or vegans as hippie extremists, or emotionally, over-emotional kind of, that they see vegans as compassionate people that just want to change things for animals, they want to change the way we approach life on this planet, that sort of stuff. That would be, ideally, as a vegan, that's how I would like to be perceived. And I guess, it's about taking vegans and the movement of veganism seriously. I guess also that it would be that they would approach things on a daily level when they go into a cafe to make some choices.
making
Perhaps,
the connection.
perhaps they will change. Question their decisions that they're making at the counter, of the way that they're consuming, what they're buying in the supermarket. I guess it's things like that. And again, you don't know what that person's going to take away. They might be just paying you lip service. We don't know.
And some people might literally, because I know some people, they take the card and they go, yeah, I agree with everything you've said.
Yeah.
And then they look at the screen and they just want to look at the screen and take that footage in.
Yeah.
Then they go off and they don't say too much to you, but I know for me, it was all in my head and I just made the change.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't voice it to the world.
Yeah.
I just went, what the hell?
Yeah.
Sat in my room, watched something and was like, never again.
Yeah.
Who knows they don't do that?
Yeah, and I suppose what we're doing is we're planting seeds. And so how far we've planted that seed in, how much water we've put on it, we don't know. When someone leaves our conversation, that whole, like you say, taking veganism seriously, is that they've verbally indicated to you that this is something that they now have a different perspective on, that they are going to look further into it. They really appreciate what you've shown them. I had no idea, now I know, I'm not going to eat that anymore. Any of those to the affirmative. But the rest of it is all seeds. They're all seeds. Maybe we've sprinkled a seed that had been planted at some point in time. Might have been 20 years ago with the cow that they were raising in the backyard, or the chickens or something, and it's just always been that little thing. Because I've had plenty of conversations with people that have said, oh yeah, we used to have chickens and one was called Mary and one was called Molly, and it was really sad when I found out that Dad had, done that to them, and maybe they've just pushed that feeling, that down, and you've just gone and sprinkled a little bit of water on this and go and given them cause to think, I wasn't being emotional, that's something that really mattered to me. Why doesn't it matter to me now? you know. So I guess it's just allowing those wee seeds to grow, and hopefully maybe another time they'll be walking through a city and they'll see another cube and they'll stop and they have another conversation. They'll watch another bit of footage. Yeah,
It's going to be a more effective technique anyway to nurture them into maybe coming to that choice for themselves anyway, rather than trying to.
Some people will go vegan on the spot, like, you know, some of us did, I did, and some people will go away and think more and more and see, oh, there's coconut as milk as an option. I'll order that today, try it.
Yeah.
You know, it's still just
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the biggest thing is like my friends getting them to like just asking the question like, how come you know, why do you drink cows milk? And even just something as simple as that, because I never ever asked myself that. And then, you know, they ask themselves that and they're like, I don't know. Like, it's just my parents fed it to me, and you know, like, but just a simple question.
Can spark so much,
so
can't it?
much.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to say that I try to speak to people, my friends, people I work with, as I'm speaking to my past self before I went vegan.
Yeah.
Because the things that changed for me
hello.
weren't when people were shoving things in my face. It was like, oh, wow, they're looking really healthy and they seem to have this glow about them and they're speaking the truth, and you can see so many people have negative reactions to it, but I know there's something about that that's good, and I speak to people hoping that that is spread as well, and just speaking to kind of my past self. But I've only been vegan 11 months now. Like, I still remember the taste of bacon, you know, I tell people that and I relate to them. I used to make chicken wings for people all the time at work, and now my thought has shifted and they can see that I'm still the same person, but I just have a different way of living my life.
Yeah. That's right, and that's something that I do try when I'm in a difficult conversation particularly. I try to remember where I was. I mean, I was vegetarian before I was vegan. I was vegetarian for 25 years. I spent 25 years thinking I was doing pretty damn good in life and making some, you know, and I was doing better, but I still had these objections and reasons why I couldn't make those changes. So trying to remember myself as someone that still contributed to what I now fight against, trying to remember that person and why I had those objections and what was stopping me and why I was putting up those walls, and it will certainly help you to relate to that person so much better rather than be outside of their wee world or up here or
Everybody's pretty vegan.
And let's not elevate ourselves too much, because we're still human and we still make mistakes, and yes, we still contribute, but we contribute less, and we do cause the least harm, but it still doesn't make us any better than the person that we're talking to.
You know what you know we're saying and we're talking about, this abolitionist stance though, obviously, because we were talking about this earlier, like working for safe for a while, you know, this whole meat-free Mondays, veganuary, 22 days. Like, you know, it's not like a little period. We want it to be a lifelong commitment, a life change. So like when people are like, like we don't want to promote meat-free Mondays and things like that, do we?
No.
So the best way to go about that when you're outreaching is kind of, you know, what would you suggest, like, for people to, like, if people are like, I'm going to give it a go, like, I don't eat meat on Mondays.
Cool.
But I know the answers. Like,
the response to that, and we're going to get into those conversations, but since you've raised it, what my response is like, wow, you're obviously a really compassionate person. It's already something that you care about, that you think about, and it's great that you're making the effort with a meat-free Monday. I'll say that I often have conversations with people and find that what really works with them is if they try all vegan breakfasts for a week. Try, you know, if you're eating meat through the rest of the day, just, you know, concentrate on your breakfast. See what you can change on your toast, or, you know, instead of putting egg on your toast, try some avocado and some nice, you know, grilled tomatoes or something like that. How do you start this? And then I say try your second week. So you've got your breakfast sussed out. By the end of week 1, you're like, well, that was pretty simple. Week 2, try your lunches, or try, you know, and then by the end of a month, you will look back and you'll think, wow, I've gone vegan with my food. And then you've got to address the next stages, which is, so we're not just talking about food. This is with the abolitionist stance. We're not talking only about food, and it's trying to get people to see that bigger picture when we're only just showing food industry on screen. We also have the fur footage. Do you guys have that down here?
We
Which
do
I
have
think
it,
would
but I don't know if we play it enough.
played it.
Well,
We need to.
in Queenstown, I think it's probably,
Yeah, that was
I can
right.
imagine you've probably got a lot of Canada goose,
We've
a
got
lot of
Canada goose
feathers going
everywhere.
on, a lot of that
Buses
stuff.
everywhere.
You're going to raise some interesting conversations from that. This is where we've talked about pest control and that sort of stuff and getting a little more clarity around that idea. But certainly, when we're just focusing on food, it can, trying to get people to think outside of just food or, okay, I've got my head around not eating bacon, as much as a trial and drama that could be for my life. I've got my head around not eating bacon. Now you're telling me that I can't wear leather and I can't wear this, and so it's a slowly, but get them to address their food intake first, and then start looking at this bigger picture of how and all the other ways that we're
And
actually
also
using it.
promoting that everything, I can't have bacon, yes you can, bacon, I can't wear leather shoes, well you can have leather shoes.
Yeah.
There's always something.
Yeah.
We're in the Western world, aren't we? There is so much for us to be able to order online, vegan shoes.
Absolutely.
So it's quite good bringing back to the heartstrings of the animal every time.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter about what you can't have, it's a matter of what you're taking away
Yeah,
from them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then they kind of get that guilt like, oh yeah, it's like there is a victim.
Yeah.
That's the reason we're going to wait.
Yeah, and I would caution about going into the areas where this is a really new idea for people, the idea of veganism, and someone's really just decided that what you've just shown me, what you've just spoken about to me is something that I think I need to change in my life. I would caution against going into raw veganism unless they already are trying to introduce raw foods into their life. But when you start talking raw vegan, where that's just like, that is so far away from where bacon BLTs or whatever they're called are, you're gonna lose them pretty quick. I'm also talking about ethical leathers and that sort of stuff.
What about
That's,
species?
yeah.
You talk about that or not?
Talk about speciesism? Yeah, for sure. But trying to get people to connect on this whole idea of ethical. So talking about ethical non-animal products and how they're produced. Unless someone actually raises that concern, have that conversation. But if they're just going and buying stuff from Glassons and wherever that is mass produced, where humans are affected, where the environment is affected, then perhaps don't touch on that straight away. That will become part of their own learning process. But unless they're asking you questions about it, by all means, I talk about the pineapple leather in a context that's just, have you heard of it? Well, they're making leather out of pineapple.
That's incredible.
From the pineapple leaves. And it's actually been something that's practiced in maybe Costa Rica or somewhere in the world. They've been using pineapple and drying the leaves into leather for decades.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So an English lady jumped onto this, found this idea, and now she's creating a business out of it. So obviously they're going to be so much better for the environment, but let's just not kind of throw too much at people in one go. Yeah. So everyone's clear on how the tally works, the conversion tally, just what we were saying, people have gone away taking veganism seriously. That's sort of put that little tick, try and keep it, and always try to sort of keep it realistic, and again, it's just considering that conversation, and have they really walked away taking veganism seriously from your conversation, or have they just said, yeah, maybe it's something I'll go check out, which is positive. They haven't said, hell, no way, that ain't happening. It's positive, but it's not necessarily one to look at your tally. Okay, so just a few etiquette reminders about the demonstration. Please arrive at the demonstration at the designated time. The organisers' briefing is an important aspect of the running of the cube, and it contains important information. So So even if you're there on time every week and it just seems to be the same spiel, it could change. You know, we do talk amongst ourselves as organisers, and new ideas come up sometimes, so there could be new additions to the briefing. Keep your demo area clean and tidy, and remember, we're keeping this business-like. Let's present this business and this idea of veganism as a serious one. Please avoid grouping when you're on your breaks. You know, the whole, imagine yourself as a bystander walking past. You've got people sort of standing there, the cubes there, the tables there, where people should be able to access those things, and you've got people standing there giggling and talking because they're on their break. That's not something that should be happening inside the demonstration area. So just, we don't, you know, take it away. But again, please just keep this idea of seriousness. This is a serious matter. What we're doing, what we're delivering here is serious, and we don't want you to be morose, but we just do require a certain level of seriousness. Eating and smoking should be done away from the demonstration area. Food sampling is not encouraged. Please respect all the AV gear now that you're getting screens as well. Those things cost money. In Christchurch, we've already broken 2 TV screens. Oh. And so easy to do, so easy to do. It's just one person tripped over a cord and they smash far easy, those screens, and yeah, they're not expensive. They're expensive to replace. So just be mindful of that, especially when you've got cords. You know, we've got cords around legs and that sort of stuff. So obviously this can lead into health and safety issues. So yeah, and handle and pack away the gear. With consideration, there's probably ways that you want those TVs slipped into the thing properly. Yeah, I do as well. Just totally anal about this. You know, ways the cords go in and stuff. It's great that you want to help. Please offer to help. Don't stand back because it's like, oh, that stuff looks too scary and Sam might freak out. At least offer to help and take advice on how to pack things away. Obviously, things like signs, they're expensive as well. So just treat them with care and respect. Masks crack, we've already got some that are starting to crack as well, so just treat them with the care and respect that they deserve. They're not that expensive, but they're a hassle when you're buying them from overseas, particularly. It takes a long time for them to arrive. And there's not a lot of money going around and happening in AV, so please respect one another and don't interrupt each other's conversations. This one is important because if you are aware, if you overhear an outreacher, perhaps imparting information that is not how we like information to be given, perhaps it's a little bit more of a vegetarian or flexitarian or reducitarian kind of message, and some people are still just new coming out of this idea. So sometimes that information will sneak in. The whole idea of this abolitionist stance is a new one for many of us. I know it certainly is at times, it has been for me. I mean, like I say, I was vegetarian for 25 years, so, you know, it took me a long time to get out of this idea of taking this slow baby step approach. And yeah, so if you have a concern about the way someone's outreaching, please don't address them unless you know they can have their spouse or a best mate or something, and you know you can have that conversation with them. Please just go to one of the organisers and tell them in quiet, just say, hey look, I'm really concerned, Catherine's kind of talking about, you know, just eat all the meat you like. So yeah, just take that to organisers, and if between the three of you can't find a way of dealing with that, then by all means come and chat to me and we can discuss it together. Also, if you don't jump in on their conversation, even though they may be giving out wrong information to somebody, it's probably going to be worse for what's happening for the cube and for conversations if people are jumping in all the time and saying, well actually no, that's wrong, I'm going to have to, you know, it's just going to come across as kind of not cool.
Like we don't know what we're doing.
Like we don't know what we're doing, we don't know what we're talking about.
So if you're shadowing, you don't have 2 cents into.
No, thank you, yeah, shadowing, that's cool. If you want to learn a little bit more about outreach or hear other people's outreach, you can ask an outreacher if you can shadow them during a session in the cube, either a full session or just for half an hour, something like that. It means keeping a little bit of space between you and the outreacher, and you just kind of, you're not, you know, listening in or like that, making it obvious, because some people will find it a little bit kind of off-putting. But just stay in the space so you can hear how an outreach conversation is going, and it was just helping you to develop your own approach.
I find being in the cube and hearing the conversation
Yeah.
is really, really
Cube's great.
educational.
Yeah,
Some I can hear an outreach are coming, some are really confident, I don't have all the information.
sure.
But yeah, just standing there holding it and then hearing
Yeah.
even just their approach.
Yeah.
The way it's done.
Yeah.
Like, I've learned a lot just by watching
Likewise.
Georgie, Sam and Kat
Mhm.
and all the other outreaches just
Yeah.
coming to someone.
Yep.
Just
Totally. And I
That's
still,
really cool.
I love jumping in the queue because I love listening into the way other people are doing it. You know, you can get so caught up in your own way of outreaching, and I know that I've still got a long way to go with my outreach and areas that I know I need to improve on, but sometimes it's like, yeah, but I don't know how else I'm going to approach that situation. So being in the cube is really cool. I love listening to other people's outreach, and I love listening to responses and seeing people's faces, seeing the connection, seeing the effect. It's, yeah, I think the cube is great.
Everyone.
You just don't know either who you're outreaching to, what approach is best going to.
That's right.
We're all
And that's all
learning
about
together.
energy as well, seeing who you're with that day, like with that in that moment.
Yeah.
Like you might need to go a bit softer.
Yeah.
You might need to be a bit more, well, no, this is actually that.
Yes.
Like, because they're a bit like, well, I'm
Yeah.
right, you know? So, you know, it depends on the person and the vibe. You know?
Absolutely, and that's we'll touch on that with outreach. I've just got one more thing, or a couple. Again, taking the cube seriously. It's about being professional. It's about delivering a clear, strong vegan message, but delivering it in a way that that person's going to look to you as possibly the only vegan they've ever met, and you're no pressure, but you're going to be the representative of what they're going to think about vegans from there on in. You know, up until that point, you've just been one of those weirdos, and now all of a sudden you're a real thing standing there, and just be honest, be your honest self, be who you are. Yeah, maybe change a little bit, because if I was my honest self, yeah.
Me too.
Just tweak it maybe. And also, if an organiser has to remind you of the rules, please don't be offended. Again, it's just to keep everything cohesive and structured. There is an aesthetic and etiquette that AV follows, and as the organisers, it's our role to ensure that that's actually upheld. So if you are approached and just reminded about something, and that could be maybe just a little bit too relaxed in the cube, you know, I've had people just sort of stand and hold it because we've got the TV screen, so you don't have to hold a laptop so much, so you can get a little more relaxed. Well, people do get a little more relaxed, and so they do need reminding that it doesn't matter if you've got a screen being held by a harness, you've still got to maintain the strong, tight, soldier-like stance in the cube. We've talked a bit about outreach. Let's just talk a little bit about this agricultural stuff super quick. But just so you know, I have got a bit of a typo. I've got New Zealand wild beer, but it's actually supposed to be New Zealand industry. It employs humane slaughter practice, which is done via electric stunning or bolt gunning first, and then it's a knife across the throat. I mean, it's just shocking. Some people might just go, well, it is what it is, it's gone now. I don't understand the implications of, you know, gassing or something that's been sitting there for a year old, you know, don't they put preservatives in it, you know, they've wrapped it in plastic, you know, there are all these ideas that were drummed into us over many years of advertising and all that sort of stuff. So we're led to believe that what we are being fed is okay for us because they're selling. They wouldn't sell it otherwise, would they? So, you know, people were still having to try and pull people out of that belief. But so a lot of people get very fixated on how it's done here. That's why they say, well, is this in New Zealand? You know, you probably all had conversations like that with Kiwis that want to know that what they're watching actually applies to them and if it's done in New Zealand. But probably a good point to make that meat is still imported and we're still eating that. That is still what is being sold on our shelves, and that may be of some concern to people that want to protect our New Zealand industry. You know, that they're not necessarily supporting it. So, and just that, and includes halal process as well. In other parts of the world, halal is just a super sharp knife and then bled out. In New Zealand, all animals have to be stunned before they are bled out. So halal just involves obviously Muslim approach, and it's usually done, I think they start with prayer, or it's the whole facing Mecca.
So
Yeah,
they don't-
in and
they
out,
slow-
yeah, not across,
one
that's
sharp
right,
line.
and down.
Lead out slowly.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not done in New Zealand.
Halal is done in New Zealand, but the animal has to be stunned first.
It's not real
So
hard.
yeah, so not in the traditional
Oh, yeah.
idea of halal, but it is still halal approved. So there are people in the halal industry that have approved the way we do it, because there's a huge market for it in New Zealand, and a lot of people see that halal tick of approval and they just think, oh, great. They probably have no idea what halal is, but they're happy to see it on there, and if it's one extra standardised approved process.
But then there's probably imported halal stuff that can't be done.
Yes, yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, our shores are open to everything being imported here and processed in ways that we don't do it here. Again, that's why you see the New Zealand beef and lamb, New Zealand pork industry, all of those industries are all for you buying the New Zealand raised product, because it has all those ticks of approval on it. But it doesn't stop them. Those products still coming into the country and sold on the shelves.
And also, the stunning method doesn't necessarily work, so
No,
Who knows
many people. My father was a slaughterer. But,
wow.
yeah, and he, on his days of the killing floor, he has confirmed that he, back in the early days where things weren't quite at the standard that they're at now, he saw many animals still very conscious. And that goes for the animals that are still conscious when they're skinned. But if anyone has any questions about dairy, and I know the answer.
So what I tell people, and maybe it's not even true, but I'll be telling them,
Yeah.
is body counts are taken away, day 1 to whatever, day 3,
Yes.
I say that.
Mhm.
And then I tell them they don't have to give them food and water.
Yep.
That's true, right?
24 hours.
Yeah. And then they can do blunt force trauma, like baseball bat over a fence or steel cap in New Zealand.
It used to.
Not anymore.
So there's a standardised way to kill them.
Yeah. Yep.
What is it?
It's stunning before a night.
So all the cows.
Yep. Unless they're done on farm, but it's illegal.
That's what I mean.
It's illegal practice.
It's illegal.
Oh, it's illegal.
It's not.
It's illegal to kill an animal, a calf or any animal.
So it has to go to the box, to the truck, to the slaughterhouse, to the box.
Well, it has to be, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's the process. Up until 4 days old. So an animal a calf has to be 4 days old when it is allowed to travel. So within that time between being removed from its mother and being forced onto a truck, it has to be fed, except for 24 hours prior. So, no, that's not true. If it's travelling long distance, they have to, work out distance that it's travelling, how long they're going to sit at the slaughterhouse, and there could be a stand down time of a half a day. So that all has to go into the equation of when the animals should be fed before going onto the truck. Does that make sense? What I have found out, and you'll see it in the PDF, that the calves are fed, they're not fed quality milk. They're not fed colostrum. So colostrum is the early milk that as mammals we produce for babies. It's the fatty, protein-rich, beautiful milk that newborn babies need in order to be able to get up and walk around and actually have some energy. And so that milk actually the colostrum is used in other industries, the beauty industry. Colostrum capsules they sell, people are putting this stuff onto their skin, they're doing all those sorts of things. Other byproducts from calves being born is they take the placenta and they use placenta in skincare products, and all of the cells. So every part has a monetary value.
I dairy farmers arguing, and then they just couldn't argue. So
There is no argument. There's just no argument for this from the perspective that
I just want to get my facts right, because I usually say
yes.
no food, no water, transport.
24 hours, so it was 28 hours,
Okay.
and
So you're
last
saying
year's revision of the Welfare Standards Act has dropped to 24 hours.
So is that from birth, 24 hours and nothing? then they have to feed it, or
No,
is
they
it
have to be
something
fed
they're
from,
dumping?
something that's prior to slaughter, 24 hours prior to slaughter.
They have to be fed.
They
But that's-
don't have to be fed. They don't want food in an animal's belly. They can have water. No, they offer them water.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So basically, they can't give them anything to eat and drink 24 hours before slaughter.
No, they're allowed
No, they're
to
allowed.
not. Right.
Yeah, so
Which way?
they can have, an animal can have water up until the time that it is taken to a killing floor. They don't want food in the belly for 24 hours. In a calf, it can be longer for an adult, but in a calf for 24 hours prior to that point of going onto the floor. Does that make sense?
It's a fast before an operation.
So from the
Sure, it's
moment
a
they're
more
born,
economical scenario for the owner as well. Like the greater the that number of hours, like the better for the owner.
oh yeah, absolutely, because it's all money.
Invest,
It's all
exactly.
money. I mean, this is, they were actually sending 1-day-old babies off. That now has changed as of last year's welfare new revision of the Welfare Act. That is now changed to a minimum of 4 days. So that's just a pain in the backside for many farmers. You're having to keep all of these calves and feeding them and that sort of stuff. But the food, the milk that they're giving them is the quality, the high somatic cells, so somatic cells being blood and pus. They naturally come out, they don't naturally, they come out of a cow's udder when it has infection, so mastitis and all those sorts of nasty things which cows, when they're milked twice a day, are going to develop. I mean, in fact probably all of our cows living here on this planet and feeding in the dairy industry, commercial dairy industry particularly, probably have very infected udders, infection in their teats. So other thing with the dairy footage that we have, something that has changed in the dairy footage that you want to be mindful of, and I've spoken to many dairy farmers that have debunked what's going on in that footage. It's changed. It's such a slight change, but for them it's major because again it's delivering something that so I'm going to see if I can get that cut out, and it may have already been cut out with the new edit.
one.
Yeah, but calves are no longer allowed to be thrown onto trucks, which was the way the drivers would do it. So the drivers would just come pick them up either from the end of the driveway or go into the farm and handle them and throw them on the trucks, and that's usually, you see that footage of them being very roughly handled and thrown on, that sort of stuff. That was because truck drivers weren't given any other form of getting animals up onto a truck, so how else do you pick up something that can barely walk and get it onto something? So now with the 4-day-old calf, they have to provide a ramp, so a ramp of some description that's either in the truck or the farmer has to provide. It has to now be the way so that animals are herded up, the babies are herded up.
So much more humane.
Yeah, but it is something that farmers will point out that doesn't happen, you've got it wrong, and then that's that. You've just completely presented some information some misinformation.
Yeah, I know that's my husband grew up on a dairy farm and
Yeah.
it all through his lines.
Yeah.
And he's very because of whatever the way you look at things,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that really irritates him is the rest of the stuff is like factual and it's all there, but the dairy stuff is he said none of the stuff that he's seen is how they would offer their practices on their farm in Taranaki and outside before the slaughterhouse.
Yes.
The calves were fed for a day,
Yes.
off their mother, and being put in a calf pen and
Yeah.
things like that. So
And
that's
that
one
is
thing
still
that I know
practiced.
constantly.
That is still practiced, but
Yeah.
on the high, on the really concentrated high production commercial farms where they're dealing with 500 head herds, that sort of stuff, and they've got cows in production season all birthing around the same time, because if a farmer's doing their job right, they will have ensured that all of their cows have been AI'd, that they're all successfully pregnant from AI, artificial insemination, and then they are producing those calves all within a few days of one another. So you imagine from a 500 head herd, 500 cows giving birth, or maybe half of that, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe that information, I can't remember, is on Jess's PDF. Half of that herd are prepared to produce a calf within a certain time frame, and then maybe the others have been AI'd a bit later and slightly down the track. But yeah, that's a lot of calves to be dealing with. So at any one time, yeah, that they'll keep them with their mums for a certain period. We may only be talking a couple of hours here, and then they get removed and penned in big sheds now, not the little pens, unless it's a small scale farm.
Are they still allowed to wear them? It's the footage.
Yeah, was that one guy?
Like from the paddock, it's like
Taking them off the
Oh,
just
from the
after the paddock footage.
I think a lot of what we're showing is obviously it occurred, all of that footage, it clearly occurred, it hasn't been set up.
Yeah.
But we're taking worst practice. So if you were to see a great farmer,
How do you
you
pick
know
up
how I
the
mean
cow
that,
nicely?
claims that, that there is care and caution taken with their animals, that message is going to be delivered a lot, it's going to be quite hard to convince someone that there's a problem in this industry while we've got Farmer Joe who's carefully, leading and someone's over there caring for mum, which I'm sure possibly happens. They're aware now that there's a lot of negative light shone on this industry, and so many farmers are taking more care. But a lot of these big farms, they've got a lot of workers, and these workers aren't necessarily well paid. A lot of them are foreign workers, and so maybe not terribly clear on the way the industry should be run. Yeah, so there's always going to be exceptions to that rule on both sides, and the stuff that we show is more extreme, but it happens. And for people to say that it doesn't happen, unless they're standing and they're setting up cameras in every single slaughterhouse and every single farm, every single milk room around the country, they cannot say, and nor can we, that this stuff is absolute.
I don't really, if they say that doesn't happen, I'd never go into an argument.
No.
I would just say giraffe, cow, rat, mice, go through the milks.
But do it in practice.
Yes.
No matter what the ending is, an animal dying and being enslaved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we're slaves.
Yeah.
So no matter with ramps or not.
Yeah, exactly.
That's too, because sometimes you said to people, they'll say, well, that's just one farm. I say, well, yeah, but how few farms are cameras being set up on? So if there's so few and that's still being caught,
Yes.
how many is it happening?
For sure. Yep.
And that kind of starts to make something, true.
Yeah, and we can take eyewitness accounts as well. There's many recorded accounts from farm workers, from slaughterhouse workers, where they see this stuff going on. I've talked to, just a couple of slaughterhouse workers in the last few months, or ex-workers, who have all told stories of what they said. They're just normal guys working in normal, everyday slaughterhouses. They weren't these extreme ones, out in the middle of nowhere that no one knows about, experiencing and viewing exceptionally horrendous behaviour.
Also, humans, I read a book, it's called Skinny.
Oh yeah.
And you read
No,
it.
I haven't, but I've heard great things
And there's
about
parts of what these workers just do to the animals for fun.
Yeah.
They torment them.
it. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that might not be the animal welfare standard, but you're letting humans interact with these animals that may be sick.
They don't need skills.
Exactly.
There's no
Exactly.
skills form that these guys
Spray
are filling
paint
out.
and
It's
things
like,
on
are you
them.
prepared to actually work in an industry or in an environment where there is a lot of pressure on you? Their wording is incredible, actually. Can you handle high stress situations? They ask about mental health states. They ask these questions that are causing. My mental health's great, I'm okay with stressful situations, and then putting them into something that is so far beyond anyone's wildest imagination, and having to deal with that.
It's like,
And these people are going to respond in all sorts of ways, but usually it's a lot of anger that comes about. Has anyone got questions?